Is this a Premier League champion going, listen, you might think you're the new big dogs in town. We just won the Premier League. You ain't having both of them.
Don't rule out Liverpool in this.
Yeah.
You've only got to beat Darwin Núñez for crying out loud.
I couldn't agree more. Hello and welcome to Transfers Exposed. I'm Will Pugh. That is Dean Scoggins, the Sun's Deputy Head of Sport. Dino, great to see you again, mate. This, of course, is your exclusive press pass to the most exclusive transfer stories throughout the summer, direct from Sun Sports News Desk. Dino, wonderful to see you. We are, of course, here every Tuesday and Thursday throughout the summer until the transfer window slams shut on September the 1st. Dino, we were a little bit caught out with this story on Tuesday. Liverpool, Alexander Isak, Hugo Ekitike. We, of course, covered Newcastle's opening gambit of £69.5 million to Eintracht Frankfurt for Ekitike. As we were in the process of editing this show up and getting it out in the afternoon, as we do, and the team do so expertly, we obviously heard the news come out.
I came running down the office and saying, what? Like,
exactly that. About Liverpool's intention of bidding £120 million for Isak or going after Ekitike as a result. So, Gary Stonehouse, our man up north, our number one for Newcastle, writes on the back page today, cop in Ek of a battle. Liverpool last night turned up the heat on Newcastle by opening talks with striker Hugo Ekitike. Now, worth noting, Frankfurt rejected Newcastle's £69.5 million bid, and Liverpool's wasn't like an official bid. It was more of a, we might bid that as well. Would that be okay? Frankfurt have said no. Initially, Frankfurt were happy to not demand Ekitike's release clause of around £86 million. Now there's two of England's most wealthy clubs in for their striker. It appears that stance may be changing somewhat, but let's talk about the Isak situation first. Liverpool have said they're willing to break the £117 million British transfer record they just broke for Florian Wirtz. They're willing to do that again and have told Newcastle they'll pay £120 million for Isak. Newcastle want £150 million at least, and then Liverpool going, all right then, well, if you're going to be like that, we'll go and nick the bloke that you really want to play with him. Is this, it feels like, a Premier League champion flexing their muscles and going, listen, you might think you're the new big dogs in town. We've just won the Premier League. You ain't having both of them.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Anyway, and on to the...
Yeah, I was very frustrated by this whole thing the other day because...
I think I've captured that story, by the way, haven't I?
You have, perfectly. You have perfectly, yeah. And it was... And the reason I found it quite frustrating is because I think I said at the end of the record that, you know, don't rule out Liverpool in this.
Yeah.
And this sort of opens up the Liverpool spectre in the background here, and look, you know, talking to the guys, our reporters on the road, and they're so well connected, and that, you know, and with the as you say, Gary in the northeast, and our guys in the northwest, and the ones, you know, we've got some great transfer guys in London, and Dan King and Charlie White the last few days really getting underneath stories.
Totally.
And we always had this feeling that this Isak thing's not going away.
Yeah.
You know, Newcastle keeps saying 150. That's all well and good until someone slaps £120 million on the table and the player goes, Liverpool.
Yeah.
You know, so
Premier League champions,
exactly,
Darwin Núñez
always
isn't
felt
the
like
favourite.
that wasn't going away. And again, being such a strong position, Liverpool, where, you know, they are the champions, they are going to go all out to try and defend it. You know, Isak's got this thing about, you know, staying and breaking the Alan Shearer record, which again, two great pieces again in the Sun today.
Yeah.
You know, Martin Lipton on the you've got to go Isak style, and time to go from Martin Lipton and time to stay from Gary Stonehouse, because obviously there's this sort of stay and break Alan Shearer's record type view, and obviously, you know, Newcastle fans will be singing from that sheet as well, and. Yeah, it's one of those where Liverpool, well, we mentioned as well, these players are quite similar in profile.
Almost identical.
Yeah. And different styles in within the game, but profile-wise quite similar. And Ekitike is obviously not as good as Isak at the moment, but has a very, very high bar.
Yep.
You know, and you drop him into a Liverpool team where there's a lot of people would say there's lots of pressure. I actually think there isn't a great deal of pressure for a player to go in there. You've only got to beat Darwin Núñez for crying out loud.
I couldn't agree more.
You know, and you've got Mo Salah one side, Florian Wirtz in behind you.
Yep.
You know, and I know that they're talking about some of the sales the other side, and obviously the tragic stuff with Jota. We shouldn't ignore.
Cody Gakpo as well, a totally underrated,
absolutely.
Outstanding footballer.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's one place you think as a striker you can just go in and go, right, okay, off we go, it's Liverpool,
totally.
right?
Yeah.
So, but then, right, so to answer your question, yes, Liverpool in a very strong position because they can effectively say we're in a stronger position to get Ekitike because we're telling you we've got 120 million quid because we pay that for Isak.
Yep.
And if you don't do us the deal with Isak, you're not going to get the other guy as well because Isak's our first choice, Ekitike is our second choice. Yep. And I don't think Ekitike is going to be too offended to think that he's second choice to Isak.
No.
And also, Frankfurt, the banking district of Germany, they know a few quid when they see one, and they're thinking, what a result this is. You know, rubbing your hands together, we're going to get near to our release clause valuation of Hugo Ekitike, not a knockdown version because a player's going to posture to go.
Yeah, so Newcastle, worth noting as well, Dino, it's our understanding that they do feel that this is a deliberate ploy by Liverpool, like the public nature of these offers and these negotiations is a deliberate ploy to unsettle Isak. Worth noting that he's conducting himself very professionally at the moment, by far from...
And so are his team, by the way,
yeah.
and the agents, and you know, and Isak himself. I was at a game at the end of the season with a group who are very, very close to that group, and they are not unhappy at Newcastle. They're not quite. For a second are they saying the club have treated them superbly. The fans obviously absolutely adore him. He loves playing there. There's not, it's one of those where if he starts the season in a Newcastle shirt, you are not going to see a 1% drop off in Alexander Isak.
Put it this way, right? So obviously, like we say, he's in Austria at the moment at Newcastle's pre-season training camp. They got a friendly against Celtic on Saturday. He's expected to play, conducting himself in exemplary fashion by all accounts. Worth noting as well, though, if you're the agent at the moment, and like hats off to them in a way, I guess, but also they are sitting pretty. They're just going, because whatever happens now, obviously worth noting this week, I think I reported yesterday from the Sports Desk, which you'll see all over the Sun Football social media platforms as well, that there's a feeling among Newcastle, the hierarchy, that they're sort of ruining not sorting out a new deal for Isak last summer. But to be fair to them, 130 grand a week he gets at the moment. 3 years left on his deal at Newcastle, his current one. He was promised new terms by former co-owners Amanda Staveley and Mehrdad Gadusi. However, Paul Mitchell comes in, another former sporting director. He comes in and he's gone, tasked by the owners with going, here's the PSR constraints, Paul. You've got to work within those. And he made a very tough decision, but he decided that he had to postpone those talks that Isak had been promised. Him and his camp were very disappointed with that, but there was a little bit of an acknowledgement and an understanding that the talks would start again this summer. Now, it's easy to say, really, he should have sorted it last summer, but it's like there are other factors at play. But whatever happens from Isak's camp's point of view, he will be on more money at the beginning of next season. Whether it's a Liverpool...
I'd be slightly cautious about that. Slightly cautious, because if a move to Liverpool doesn't materialise, that doesn't mean you want to rule out a move going forward. So yes, probably a new contract is negotiated at a higher wage and a higher release clause.
Well, Gaz writes in the Sun this morning, sorry, just to interrupt you, Gaz writes that Newcastle are willing to break their £150,000 a week wage cap in order to keep him, to the tune of an extra 70 grand a week, which would take him to 200. Martin Lipton writing that Liverpool willing to give him 250 grand a week. So, sorry, Karen.
No, but that's what I mean is that, but it still doesn't rule out a move in the future future, he's in again. They're in a very strong position, as you say, as an agency and as a player, because it's like, well, it's win-win.
Yeah.
And because he's so happy, because that Champions League.
Yeah.
And look, they've gone and bought Alanga. They're talking about Ekitike. They're going to strengthen further defensively as well. They're looking at to strengthen further. But lots of people are whispering in the background that are Newcastle going to make a sort of a title charge in this year. So if he stays another year and it doesn't quite work out, that doesn't then rule out a move to, all respect to Newcastle, a super club after that. So he's got time on his side. What is he, 23 or was he 24? Ekitike was 23, wasn't he? So
Isak 25, Ekitike 23.
So I mean, we're not even talking about 27, 28-year-old prime needs the last big move yet. We're not talking about like we did with Harry Kane at Bayern Munich in those last 2 years. So it's fascinating. Liverpool flexing their muscles. And let's be honest, Newcastle are fairly well backed.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're going to be counting the money in the piggy bank after selling Alexander Isak. They're probably going to be thinking, if the valuation is met, then whatever that is, then they're probably going to be thinking what could have happened if he stays.
Yeah, and if the valuation is met, they weigh out. Say they meet in the middle, right, and they settle on 130, 135, something like that. And then Frankfurt go, well, no, we know that you're all right for a few quid now, so we want Ekitike's £86 million release clause. They've got Isak Light, who's got the potential to be a very similar sort of player as clubs across Europe are agreed. They get Isak Light with Ekitike, bring him in. Another 50-odd million quid on top of that to spend elsewhere strengthening the team. I quite agree with you, and I think many Newcastle fans will be going, who we want to be and who we are aiming to be and who we are going to be now, we're at the top table with the big boys. Gaz writes very well about, beating Alan Shearer's record is the greatest achievement any player could have as striker at Newcastle, at a club that reveres their centre forwards so much.
Oh no, come on! I thought you were going to say loves that. I was going to go there on they love football more up there than everybody else.
It means more. Well, it means more. Even more at Liverpool. It means more.
Come on.
It means more. Everywhere,
we don't like football in the south, do we? But no, I think I think you bang on, and I'd love.
Newcastle's an exciting project and a place to be, is my point, I guess.
Yeah, I'd just love Newcastle to dig their heels in and just say, publicly, we'll hear from Eddie Howe in the next few days. Publicly, he is not for sale at any price. We're going to give him the best contract that's ever been given to a Newcastle player, and. By the way, we're also going to bid for Ekitike,
sure.
And if Liverpool want to go, if Liverpool want to go to battle for Ekitike, that's fine. Yeah. Another one we should mention is Mark Gahey.
Sorry, just before you do that though, if Newcastle were to do that, what would that be?
What do you mean?
A statement of intent.
Oh, a statement of intent. Sorry, yeah. So you teed me up for that perfectly, and I was on it.
No, but if they do that with Isak, that is saying no. We're not bowing down to Liverpool. No. We're in that league now. Yeah. So this is what we are trying to do.
We want to beat Liverpool this year, and we're going to do it with Isak.
And even if it does go, and they make it difficult, and they go toe-to-toe over the Ekitike thing, that, again, a statement of intent in itself, going, no, all right, okay, fine, you've got this one, but we're not going anywhere.
No, absolutely. And just to mention Mark Gahey, as I mentioned his name there, that's another one that comes into the mix, because Liverpool looking at him and Newcastle looking at him. So there's this little war going on.
So if you were to pick then, Dino, Martin and Gary Stonehouse outlining both arguments very well indeed in the paper this morning. If you're Isak, given the money, given all of the factors at play, what do you do?
If I was Isak, I would go. But I would also be very content staying and knowing that I'm valued at 150 million by my club.
Yeah, Sean Custis, get in the comments.